Hello.
Hello, this is a prepaid call from an inmate at the Tennessee Department of Corrections, DeBerry Special Needs Facility. To accept this call, press 0. To refuse this call, your current balance is $3.37. This call is from a correction facility and is subject to monitoring and recording. Thank you for using GTL.
All right.
What up, what up, what up? Y'all already know what time it is, man. Y'all kicking it with me and Pops. We finna have a little conversation, man. Me and Pops was on the phone yesterday, man, and he said something, he was talking about a movie he was watching. What's the name of that movie, Daddy?
Respect. Well,
Respect.
you know, Jennifer Hudson's in it. Yeah.
Respect, man.
It's about Aretha Franklin.
And it started the conversation, man. But before we get started, man, y'all already know what time it is. You know what I'm saying? If y'all ain't already following my daily podcast, go check out my daily podcast. It's called Doing Time with Joe. DOIN, Time with Joe, JOE. When you type it in Google, it's gonna pop up. It's streaming on all platforms. You name it, it's on there. SoundCloud, Spotify, whatever you listen to your music on or podcast on, it's streaming on all platforms. But before we get started, Pops, Daddy, anything you want to say?
Man, just thanks for all the support, man. I'm glad to be back with you again to kick off a good conversation, man. So let's get it on, man.
That's what's up, man. What was your what was it? It was something that what was that you was watching? I mean, what part was what was going on?
Okay, yeah. It was the part where Dr. Martin Luther King had gotten killed. That part right there sparked, you know, I was at River Bend, right? It made me remember a time when I was at River Bend, maximum security prison, and I met the man that killed Dr. Martin Luther King, James Earl. I actually sat down and I had a brief conversation with him, you know what I'm saying, in the library, you know. Mm-hmm. And it was after about 2 weeks of going to the library and seeing him in there. And every time I would see him, I would walk past him, you know, and I would throw my head up and he would acknowledge me, you know what I'm saying, and I'd walk on by, right? But he would sit at this same table, you know what I'm saying, at least 3 times a week, reading, you know, Time magazine or whatever. So after about a week of going in and out of the library and seeing him in there and speaking, you know, this particular day, man, it was like kind of crowded in there. So I asked him, could I sit down? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And he came, he sat up straight because he was hunched over. He sat up straight and he looked at me, you know, and we locked eyes and all this. And then he's like, yeah, sure, right? And then when I sat down, the first thing out of his mouth, he was like, man, look, I don't talk about my case, right? And I'm like, all right. And truth be told, I had all intentions on asking, you know what I'm saying, about what's really going on. I was really going to get at him, right? Because I was curious. I wanted to know. And plus, you know, seeing him, you know, in the library like that, I'm going to be honest too, you know, I really wanted to do something to him. You know what I'm saying? Because he had killed, you know, Dr. Martin Luther King, right? That was my mindset at the time. You feel me? But after I sit down and he told me that, you know, he wasn't going to talk about his case, I said, that's cool. I said, I just wanted to sit down and read. You know what I'm saying? Really lying. You know what I mean? So we sat there, and every now and then I would look up and I would look at him, man. You know, and he just looked old and defeated. You know, and I got to thinking about that, man, when I saw Aretha Franklin's movie the other day, actually yesterday. And it made me think about that memory and seeing this dude, man. And what I saw, it really blew my mind because when I'm talking about when I saw him, I saw this dude that was old, beaten up, and defeated, and just broken. It was like, I don't know, it was kind of like this dude had believed in something that caused him to kill this great man, in my opinion. And here he is sitting in prison like all the rest of us. You know what I'm saying?
Let me ask you something. Let me ask you something. Did you have any kind of status in being affiliated at the time?
I did.
Okay. Was he aware of that?
Look, I don't even think he knew me. He had seen me, but this dude was real quiet. Okay. You feel what I'm saying? He did not talk to a lot of people at all. You know what I'm saying? I'm asking for the people listening because, you know what I'm saying, I'm wondering what it was like. You know what I'm saying? Was it a sense of fear because of somebody's status, or was he just, like you just said, quiet and probably just didn't want to talk to nobody about the situation? Another thing, when it comes to that, I know a lot of people probably gonna ask this. So he was in general population? Yeah, he was in general pop. Yeah, so you got to remember though, at River Bend, you know, you got two units, Unit 5 and Unit 6, right?
Yeah.
And back then, Unit 5 was like when you come off of Max and Close, and then you go to Unit 5, and you work your way to Unit 6. That was the staff unit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he was down there. Yeah, he was down there. He could come and go. I don't remember that he had a job per se, like the rest of us, but I do remember he was in that library at least 3 or 4 days a week, sometimes reading law books. Most of the time he was reading the magazine. You know, the magazine that he was reading the day I was talking to him was Time magazine. I'll never forget it. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, now go ahead with what you were saying.
Yeah, and it was weird because looking at him, man, like I say, he's locked up with all the rest of us, right? And it's like, this dude killed Dr. Martin Luther King, and he looked so defeated, and it made me think after I saw this movie yesterday, man, about what I thought back then. I had totally forgot this encounter because it was, even though it was a significant encounter, meeting somebody like that, or whatever the case may be, but I had totally forgot about that until I saw this movie yesterday, and then I got to thinking about what I thought about him then, because I was like, what was my impression then? And I remembered it, and it was like, this dude had bought into an ideology that caused him to dismiss and disregard Dr. Martin Luther King's humanity. You feel what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And it caused him to lose everything. He looked old, defeated, worn out, like it was over, like he had given up, and I was like, he's just like everybody else. This dude is broken too, like everybody else. And he did something that cost him the rest of his life in prison. And that just stuck out to me, man. And I was like, dang.
But you leaving out an important part of what we were talking about yesterday.
Okay.
Because it was something that you seen in the movie that when she was explaining the brokenness and then how she started back doing the gospel, where you getting.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, see, what it was is like with dealing with, when I watched this movie, man, you know, she had never told anybody, according to this movie, what happened to her as far as, you know, she got pregnant, right? And I think she was like 10 or 11 when this happened, when they showed her, right? And it's like she had never told anybody about that. And she never had dealt with that original trauma. And she was just broken. And I got to thinking about everybody in here. Everybody, in my opinion now, everybody in here is broken, real fragile. You know what I'm saying? And we never confront whatever that is that's going on with us that's broken. And it causes us to do things that are so silly and so stupid. And that's what stood out to me about that movie yesterday, watching her on there, Jennifer Hudson play that role. She was broken. And she didn't even she couldn't figure out how to confront that until she went back to the church. Until she went back to the church. Because I remember she was up there, she was singing, they were rehearsing, and she was saying she started crying. You know what I'm saying? And she was like, she just couldn't do it. And the pastor told her, the music director, he was talking to her, and he said a few things to her and told her, you know, she'll be okay, so on and so forth. And when she came back up there and she sung that song, man, I'm weeping because it was like she had dealt with that trauma, that pain in her way. Now, I never saw in the movie where she told anybody who she was pregnant by, how she got pregnant, anything like that, because they did say in the movie, one particular part, one of the girls said, are you going to ever tell us who the dad of those kids are? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And whatever happened to her, it broke her. And from that point on, she was making mistakes after mistakes after mistakes in her relationships and everything because she never was able to deal with it. And that's what we do in here. And by us being broken like that, we don't really realize the pain and the damage that we're causing. But another thing that stood out to me in our conversation yesterday is like this. We totally, man, I want to say this the right way because I don't want to offend anybody, but we totally dismiss what Dr. Martin Luther King and other people like him went through just to get us to that point to where we could participate in the process, and so we could vote. And then something else that you said yesterday when you was talking about reading Unc's book, you know what I'm saying? And let me just clarify, you know, our uncle, you know, John Baker, he wrote a book, The Washingtons of Washington. And it's about our family history. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And he details all the, you know, the things that our family went through and so on and so forth, our ancestors. And we dismiss the struggles, the pain, the trials and tribulations that our ancestors endure when we don't confront our pain, when we don't confront those traumas, and they lead us to doing the things that we do, ending up in prison. And you said yesterday, you know, people out here are broken. And that's true. I believe you. I know that's true. You know what I'm saying? And we cause pain and trauma out there. We dismiss our ancestors. We dismiss all the things that people went through to get us to this point in this country, meaning particularly poor people and black and brown people. So we can't participate in the process, man. And we get so apathetic that we don't want to participate. And I just thought it was strange that was the memory that was jogged with me yesterday by watching that show. Here I am looking at, and I don't know dude. I didn't know dude like that. But I'm going to use the terminology white supremacist, right? I'm going to assume that he was into that because he killed this black leader. You know what I'm saying? Because he was making waves. But it's one thing I understand about white supremacists and white supremacy. White supremacists, they want you to be apathetic about the system. They want you to not participate in it. They want you to believe that it don't work. Because if you don't participate in it, you can't get nothing changed. Mm-hmm. And when you get caught up in that spiral like we do when it comes to, you know, thinking about how the system represents us and how it works for us, we don't believe in it like we should. You know, and I'm talking about the people in the streets. We can't relate like our circumstances with gas and food to what's going on in the political realm. We don't relate those issues in the way that we need to be relating them, so we'll get more involved. But we can't be involved as long as we continue to be in the streets and doing the things that disqualifies to be involved.
Right.
And that movie jogged all of that with me yesterday, man. And it was like, wow, this is a lot. It was an overload, you know what I'm saying? And I was just struck by that, man. And I was like, man, it made me feel sad yesterday, man. I was crying. I'm going to keep it real. You know what I'm saying? And I wasn't crying because I was sad. I was crying because I felt a healing taking place within me. You know what I mean? And it made me want to be more involved.